John out here with you. It is April 9th, 2020. It's time for the Resident Evil 3 thoughts and video review. Now there's a few things that I got to get off my chest, and as far as the opening cutscenes here, I apologize. There's not really much I can do to not show you the Nemesis because he's pretty much everywhere throughout this game. And even though this game is very short, it's very brief, it's still fun to play, and I hate to say this to you, but if you're a Resident Evil fan and all of that, I'm not going to sit here and say I love Resident Evil 6 and all that, but I'll tell you, this game has about the same length as the light gun shooter Resident Evil Survivor on the PlayStation. I shudder to think of that when I say that, because you don't want to use Resident Evil Survivor and Resident Evil 3 Remake 2020 in the same sentence, but this game is not very long, so if you're looking for a casual playthrough and you're going to drop $60 on this game, you could probably beat this game maybe in its entirety if you go through slow like I do and try to get everything in the very beginning, because I'm no freaking speedrunner. I'm not amazing at these games. They're just fun to play. I do love the Resident Evil series, but your original playthrough might get you about 6 hours, and that's probably on the long end for a lot of you. But if you're going through the game and you're skipping cutscenes and you kind of know what you're doing after you beat it, you could beat the game in under 2 hours. I would never be able to do it because I would die a lot and have to save and things like that. But this is a speedrunner's dream if you're into that. And this is a short game. It's a sweet game, but there are a few things that I have to get off my chest. So as far as these opening cutscenes here, Joel's already going to go through 4 or 5 different explosions, get grabbed, get thrown all over the place. I don't know how she's not dead. Pretty much with all these explosions, anyone would be dead at this point, but I digress. You remember the original Resident Evil 3 in 1999 on the PlayStation. It was kind of a branch for Resident Evil Code Veronica coming to the Dreamcast. PlayStation fans needed to get something else, Resident Evil fans needed to get something else to hold them over, and that was Resident Evil 3 Nemesis. Now, in my opinion, it might have been something to throw Jill Valentine in there, a character that everybody knows from Resident Evil 1 and the Mansion Incident with Chris Redfield and all of that. But Resident Evil 3 does something to tie them over. Shortly after the events of the Mansion Incident, they have a Nemesis that goes around and pretty much messes with her shit the entire game and stops at nothing to an attempt to kill her. Now, as scary as that game was, with the stars and the Nemesis and all of that, even though they kind of changed his voice around a little bit, maybe I don't like that as much. I kind of like the deep stars instead of the stars or whatever it is. It's not the same there, but what I did like what Capcom did with the Nemesis is there's, also a ton of different forms here. As you see Brad, so you get to catch up with him between Resident Evil 2, Resident Evil 1, and all of that stuff, but he's going to be dead pretty shortly here if you already know all that. But what I like about what Capcom did with the Nemesis is just the multiple forms, and it really shows that he's going to stop at nothing, just like he did in the 1999 version, but in this game especially, he will stop at nothing to kill Jill. And even in this instance, I didn't show part of the cutscene there because I don't want to give all that stuff away, and you've probably already seen part of it, from some of the previews and all of that. But you also get a little bit of the humanistic side of what Jill had to go through in that little first-person sequence and all of that from the beginning of the game. You get a chance to see how maybe some of those events shaped her a little bit, that she's going to, really at the end of days she's got to do everything she can to be able to survive. She's already been through a lot, so the little emotional trauma that they put at the beginning of the game was a very nice touch. If you liked Resident Evil 2, I heard some people already say, from that remake, because that game really is a remake. It's kind of everything from Resident Evil 2 added in. This is more of a reimagining in Resident Evil 3. But if you liked everything in Resident Evil 2 and you like the gameplay, you're going to get, like a second piece of cake, if you will, a second slice of pizza. It's an extension of what the RE2 gameplay was, and in that sense, that's all that is the same about it. So if you liked the gameplay from RE2 and some of that, you're going to like it in RE3. Now, it surprised a lot of us after the RE2 remake was announced, the rumors that the Resident Evil 3 remake was going to be on its way. And that was more of a surprise, because the Resident Evil 2 remake, that was a fan clamoring that everybody else wanted. Resident Evil 3, yeah, it might have been a little bit of an afterthought, but there were so many damn developers at Capcom working on this game, and they were throwing it out there and saying, do you guys want to play this? And a lot of us are going to say, hell yeah. Don't mind that the game is a little short, but I do think that there are some missed opportunities in this game, even though I like what they did with Jill, even though I like what they did with the Nemesis. You know, you took some of the church element away. You know, some of the parts of the game isn't even in the game. Like, here you see the guy, you don't get to see the daughter or anything. I think you just hear the scream in this game. But he's the one that kind of hides away. You know, in the original game, you can go back in there and you see his corpse inside there as the zombies got through. There's just sequences in the game that's taken away. You know, the spiders in Resident Evil 3 and the clock tower and all of that. That was kind of taken away in terms of, you know, trying to find these fuses to be able to turn on some power and things like that. The choice system that you got in the original Resident Evil 3, you know, should you fight the Nemesis head on, you're going to want to go into the RPD station. As far as the RPD station, you know, some of that stuff with Jill is taken away in terms of something else, and you can see that. You might like that change. But part of that stuff with Jill is gone. There's just elements of the game that's not there. Like, yeah, you have this parking garage here. Remember where you get a couple of those things where you could see the Nemesis or fight this giant worm from the initial game to see what that would be like? That's not also in the game. So they took parts of the game as far as you see the dodge roll there with the R1 that they added in. You're going to have to do that a lot to try to get to the Nemesis. But there's other parts of the game that's nice. It's more action-packed. You know, there's more bullets and things like that. But it's not like the initial game where you might have to fight the Nemesis a little bit. He punches you twice, you're dead. He does one throw to you, you're dead instantly. So you have to do a lot more running in that regard as far as the Nemesis is concerned, because he's going to stop at nothing to kill you. But the game is similar, like as I said, to the Resident Evil 2 remake as far as the action. But Resident Evil 3, a reimagining, that's what I like to call it. There's parts of the game that was taken away from the original, but still, at the end of the day, it's a fun game. It's a short game, but it's good at what it does. You know, it keeps you on the edge of your seat for about your 4 or 5 hour playtime, and that's it. But at the end of the day, you're not going to get to see it in this video here because I didn't go through and try to replay the game multiple times, but really in Resident Evil 3 more than any other one, that's what it's all about. You want to play through the game multiple times. If you beat the game on hardcore, it unlocks Nightmare Mode, and in that sense is kind of like Scenario B for Resident Evil 2, where it kind of retools the items around and gives you a totally different experience. If you can get through Nightmare Mode, then you can play an even harder mode of that, Inferno Mode. And if you don't want to die in one hit, if all that stuff sounds a little too challenging for you, play through the game a couple times in normal mode. Get your battle points and then use them in the shop to get some of the other items to get infinite ammo or health refills or damage ups to be able to get through the game. And then as you go along, I think Resident Evil 3 more or less wants you to speed run a little bit and just try to replay it and see how much better you can get and have fun with it that way. So, what are your thoughts of the Resident Evil 3 remake / reimagining? Because I'd like to know. This game probably isn't what a lot of us expected from the 1999 release, but I think it's also one that maybe the story arc and everything else was kind of weak. Maybe some of that stuff was an afterthought. And to be able to have this and play it is more of a surprise than anything at all. So if you don't mind that the game has, again, I hate to use this game name, the Resident Evil Survivor playtime length, then you'll be right at home. Just don't say I didn't warn you about spending $60 in a game that's short, but that'll be your decision. If you want to play the Resident Evil Resistance, it's also included on the Resident Evil 3 disc. Now this was just a funny sequence at the very end. I got saved in one of those Nemesis boss fights by a cutscene. Have a good one, guys. We'll talk to you soon.